because they care.
You're on.
Welcome back to Sports Wrap Live, everybody. Okay, Andrew, let's get everyone briefly caught up to speed after a wild and productive weekend in New Orleans. Your thoughts on the tournament overall, and more specifically, let's talk about our weekend covering the Final Four that everyone heard on Sports Talk 790.
Overall, I thought it was a great weekend for college basketball. The team that was the best team from day one to day two, the whole way through the season, was the best team that ended up winning the championship. Some years we don't have the best team win the championship because they either get tripped up because, somewhere in a trap game or an injury bug bites them. We've had that past couple years, I think. But this year we had a team that really lived up to the potential, lived up to the hype, lived up to all the expectations, even by Big Blue standards. I mean, they really only lost 2 games, and one of them was by a last-second three-pointer where they basically, it was the 10th game of the season, they were still trying to find themselves, and then a Vanderbilt team that I'm not sure Kentucky was really focused in on that game, and they're more looking forward to the tournament. So, I mean, outside of those 2 blemishes, they won every tournament game by over 10 points. That's impressive. So, I think Kentucky really, it was their coronation. It was a great weekend for them. I mean, also, to go to that, I thought we had a pretty good championship game. I thought Kansas, they were a little bit out of it to start the first half. They didn't really, when Kentucky threw that first blow, they didn't counterpunch. They kind of tried to hang around for a while. And then in the second half, they did make their run. There was a couple moments where we both kind of looked at each other like, is this going to happen? Like, is this going to happen again to Coach Cal? But it didn't.
Kadoma sure thought so.
Yeah, I'm sure some people thought that it was going to happen because it felt like one of those moments where it was like, if Kentucky can just make one more free throw, make that one extra shot, they were going to get right back to, into the position where they had the team in their hands. And for Louisville and for Ohio State, obviously disappointing, but especially for Ohio State because they had that game won. They really did. They had that game won, and at the end they kind of just choked it away with their scoring. And I think for Louisville, it was just, they got just outclassed by a better team. I think that's all you can say. And even after the game, I think Pitino even talked about how, he kind of wished that Kentucky good luck and to bring it back to the state and to the Commonwealth. And it overall was a very good classic tournament. There wasn't any, for the Final Four, there wasn't any really buzzer beaters per se. Any games that went even into, only a few going to overtime, but none that really stood out as far as buzzer beaters. But overall, a good tournament. Not that many injuries that really debilitated teams that were, the suspension of Fab Melo and the suspension of Jamar Samuels for Kansas State that kind of took away. But overall, a pretty good tournament. I would say a pretty good tournament.
Definitely. Focusing on the national champs themselves, Calipari finally gets the monkey off his back, gets number 1. Now, when the championship hats came out, I thought it was for Cal, number 1, but it says no one greater. Yeah. But you know what? Remember the last time he faced Kansas in this tourney, we talked about it last week ad nauseum, up 9 with like 4 minutes left to go. Kansas did the same thing that they did to Kentucky, although Memphis melted down. This Kentucky team, who has played like almost semi-pro team all season long, really huddled themselves up, got their focus back, made the stops they needed to make, and closed out the game.
I think that was a real problem for Kansas, is that if you looked in the 2 Final Four games they played, it really took them to get punched in the mouth for them to start to counterpunch back and for them to get back into it. And you can't do that with a Kentucky team like this. If you get punched right now with, which is the haymaker, you're probably liable to fall down for a while and for a few rounds before you can get your bearings. And it seems like Kansas just dug the hole too deep and was never able to really, it got close, it got to I think maybe 6, and we were like, is this going to happen? But then they weren't able to bring it back up to the next level. They were against Ohio State, because Ohio State, I just don't think is as good of a team as Kentucky. But with Kentucky, you just can't give them leads late in the game and expect for them to wilt. You have to go out and take it.
Now, we saw what Anthony Davis did, not even scoring a point in the first half, but having as big a fingerprint on that game as any player on that court. And, Kid Gilchrist, what were your thoughts on him?
Kid Gilchrist really didn't play the kind of game I thought he would in the championship game. But like getting to your point about Anthony Davis, we watched him. He only really, had that one free throw in the first half, and he dominated the game. I mean, this kid won most outstanding player for the tournament, and he had I think maybe 6 points in the championship game, fewest points maybe ever for a most outstanding player. But if you looked at the little things he did, it was the 16 rebounds, it was the blocks, it was the assists, it was the steals. It wasn't even the steals he maybe got credited with. It was just him kind of poking his hand in there and getting steals, deflecting the ball.
Here comes Kadoma.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind you, you are listening to the 790 Sports Talk 790 AM bracket champion.
That is true.
That's
Round
right.
of applause. Cons, did you know Andrew won the bracket for Sports Talk 790? Yes, he did.
Kudos.
Yeah. We found out while we were on the air, thanks to Clear Channel New Orleans for having us in the studio and doing our semifinal wrap-up on Saturday night, which was great. Had a great show. The drinks were flowing. We were right in our wheelhouse. We had a great time out there.
So you won it. Go figure. Go, Mr. Bracketology over here.
Not only did he call it, but he called the final score within 2 points on one side and 1 point on the other, for a total of 3 points.
I think I called it.
Here's the official final score from the press release.
I called it 65-57 and it ended up being 67-59. So that was pretty close.
Yeah, you're pretty darn good.
Continuing on with the game, though, I really think the star of the championship game, outside of Anthony Davis and his intangibles, was Dorian Lamb. He had 22 points. Cal thought before the game that he was going to get 25. He really was everything they needed on the offensive end. I think he played a really polished game. He was pretty impressive. Outside of that, as far as for Kansas, Jeff Withey really seemed like he didn't know what to do with himself. I mean, he had some decent rebounds, but he had no chance with Anthony Davis. Thomas Robinson, though, 18 and 17. That's probably as close as you're going to get to a 20-20 game for a kid in the national championship game. I thought he really impressed me. You know, Tyshawn Taylor had a decent game. Not a great game. Elijah Johnson had a couple mistakes there at the end of the game that kind of hurt his team. But I don't want to say cost his team the game because I think they're going to lose anyway. But overall, a pretty good game. I'm excited to see next year of the team that Cal's going to bring in there.
So overall, your experience out there?
Oh, outstanding experience. One of the top, maybe the best experience I had at a sporting event. Mostly because of the access we had, but they were good games. And the first game was a so-and-so game as far as the Kentucky and Louisville, but that Kansas game that was down to the wire with Ohio State. And then the championship game was also very good because we got the best team did win, and they got pushed at the end. They got challenged.
I'm sorry.
And they're really great kids. Let me just say that.
Can I just say something? I didn't go. I just want to put that out there. I did not go.
You were there in spirit.
Yeah, next time I'm gonna leave my spirit here and I'll bring the physical to New Orleans.
Do that. Maybe we would have actually gotten our special guest on the line by now if you were out there. We are waiting on the Trill to recognize the real Trill here at the table. We're waiting on Jay Billis to call in to kind of wrap up the entire college basketball season together because we ran into Jay Billis. We also ran into a few other folks, Andrew, and you know what? We compiled a list after the championship game, after all the confetti had been thrown in the air and all the stories have been written, and Gary Parrish was the last one left in the media lounge. So what we did is we were in the King Suite at the Westin, shout out to the Westin, and we poured ourselves a nice Starbucks cup of peach Ciroc and cranberry, which was delicious.
In a Starbucks cup?
In a Starbucks cup. Okay. We got to keep it.
Did you go venti on it?
No.
You went tall.
No, we were. It was actually chill mode. It was like we had
So
put
no
it
peach
in.
Ciroc, peach schnapps.
Peach Ciroc.
Oh, peach. I thought you said peach schnapps.
Peach Ciroc and cranberry.
It is New Orleans, so you have to be very careful.
So
Bourbon
tasty.
Street, they will hit you with some schnapps.
So what we did, Andrew and I started compiling our list. Now we have a Met list, people we met and networked with, gave a card to, a flyer, crossed paths with, had great times with, and then we made a Saw list. So let's give them the Met list first. Let's start right at the top for the guy that we're waiting.
Break my heart. Break my heart.
Well,
everybody you guys met that I did. People think that, because I make music, I'm still not a fan. I'm a big fan of a lot of different people.
Are you a fan of Ashley Judd?
Yes, I am a big fan of Ashley Judd. She has a new TV show, Missing.
Which we saw here tonight at Junction Bar and Grill, the one show other than sports on the 42 screens. I look up while I'm eating dinner, show prepping, and who do I see? My new friend, Ashley Judd.
That's your new friend?
Well, I'd like to say she was, but she was very, very accommodating, very nice. We chatted for a minute right there at the sideline, and she was actually sitting right next to Phil Knight and Eric.
I'm sure she was happy, because who was she rooting for?
Oh, you already know. The number one Kentucky fan, Kentucky alum herself, Ashley Judd.
So she was having a great time.
She absolutely was. She was out there with her wonderful husband, Dario Franchitti.
Nice.
IndyCar driver, who you'll see when you're on Gumball 3000.
I will see him in Indianapolis.
Stop by that pit and make sure you say hello from
Well, that's what we're
Live.
watching. The Gumball is going to be watching from the pit. We're going to park the cars out in the grass, and then we're going to walk over to the pit, and we're going to watch the show from the pit. So when he pulls in to swap out those tires, I'm going to chunk him a dudes from Sports Rap Live.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, let's continue on. Andrew, the guy we're waiting on to call right now to get his opinion on Final Four, Jay Billis, had a very special friend with him as they were coming down Bourbon Street.
Yeah, he had Reese Davis, very popularized through College Game Day, the college basketball and college football versions. Does a great job hosting that thing from city to city to city. We definitely got to see him. You want to run through the rest of the list?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we saw Billis, Reese Davis. We touched on Ashley Judd, Eric, the head of Nike basketball, who was there with Phil Knight. We got to see Samuel Jackson.
Wait, he was there with Phil Knight?
Yes. Well, Phil Knight was sitting next to them. It was actually.
Was he sitting next to them, or were they sitting next to him?
I don't know how to call that.
Everybody was sitting next to Phil.
I'm going to assume everybody was sitting next to Phil.
Yeah.
Yes.
At a basketball event like that.
If I had to wonder if Eric got his tickets from Phil or Phil got his tickets from Eric, I'm going to go with Phil on that one.
And you already know.
Yeah.
And Eric told some great stories, of course, about Nike basketball. He's been there 25 years. The guy doesn't look a day over 35. I mean, I guess that's what's happened when you just do it every day up there in Oregon and you breathe that good Northwest air.
Absolutely.
But yeah, shout out to Eric. He told us the great story about, and we could have a whole segment on the stories he told us, but how he had to run down to the corner store to get black gold toe socks because Michigan didn't have any socks to wear when the Fab Five was playing in the Final Four. And hence, that was the birth of the black socks the first year before Nike actually started producing the black socks. Many great stories about Air Jordans. He worked with Jordan over the years, development. So we promise you guys, in the near future, during one of Kadoma segments, we will get him on. But let's continue down the list. This is a great one. Now
Samuel L.
Speaking with
Mr. Chow.
Mr. Chow from Hangover and Hangover 2.
Yeah.
We're having a great conversation.
It was probably just all MF bombs. That's probably what it was. They probably speak their language. That is their code.
That's exactly what it was. And hey, a guy that I've admired growing up watching on ESPN and writes for the Boston Globe and was actually honored for the very awkward, coronation for the Hall of Fame as a writer. Bob Ryan was out there from PTI fame, of course. Got to say hello to him. I mentioned Gary Parrish.
Yeah, all the CBS crew we got to sit next to. They're actually sitting there getting down a little grub while we're all waiting for the game, and then also after the game and trying to set their stuff up and get all their work in.
Why don't you run down some of those names?
Yeah, we saw, right off the bat, Gary Parrish, who I listen to his podcast all the time. It's great. He's probably one of the lead basketball writers in America. Jeff Goodman, who also writes there. He's formerly of Fox Sports, but now at CBS. Matt Norlander, who's kind of the young one of the crew. He also runs a blog out there. Saw Eamon Brennan, who runs the ESPN basketball blog out there for them. We also saw on Radio Row two Hall of Famers. We saw Bill Walton and John Thompson, which is pretty exciting.
I actually got Bill Walton on Matt Thomas' show, so we actually got to sit next to him and just hear him. It's like somebody winds him up.
He pontificates.
He absolutely loves to tell stories about being in basketball for 45 years.
His nickname to me would be, if I knew him, I would be like, you're the loquacious one. He just loves to talk. But he does a great job at it, too. So many stories. Such a great storyteller.
I would have loved to have asked him one question. Like, what does he think was his most impressive performance?
Oh, he told us.
No. In front of Luke.
Oh.
Like, what was the game that he brought the boys out, that the boys got to watch him do his thing?
That's a great question.
I'd be interested in that.
Well, maybe one day we'll effort Bill Walton.
And then you flip it and ask him what was his proudest moment watching his son.
Watching Luke. Yep.
Definitely a raconteur.
Wait. Am I giving away the sports talk? Am I giving away the Sports Rap Live secrets?
They're trying to take him anyway, so we might as well just give them away.
Well, this guy has no secrets, no closets in his skulls in his closet. Charles Barkley, who you ran into. I saw him a couple times out there walking around for the CBS crew.
Can I say Chuck is a great guy? Okay, I wouldn't want to be on his bad side and get thrown through a window.
Skip Bayless.
But thank you very much. But I walked down the entire breezeway there with Chuck, and we had a great conversation. He really took the time, was interested.
No problem, yeah.
Thank you. Didn't get a chance to tell him we use that hotkey quite a bit, but he was gracious enough to get a photo, which you can see on our Facebook, Sports Rap Space Live, at any time.
Now that was crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Another guy we saw was Dan Wolkin, who had a great time with the swag comments. He writes at the Daily. Another guy was Andy Staples, who I ran down because he does a lot of talking about not just college sports, but also about food. A great guy about food. And he kind of was the one that hit me up with the Koshan, which is a place that we hit up of, was it Chapalupas?
Yeah, on Sunday.
I think that's how you say it. Yeah, on Sunday, which was great food that day.
It was actually the Butcher, which is a nice little sandwich spot right behind Koshan.
Extra special shout out to Koshan. That was an excellent restaurant. Probably the best food that I've ever had in New Orleans, and that's saying a lot as someone that used to vacation there since they were a child. So if anyone goes to New Orleans, definitely have to check out the butcher shop next to Koshan.
Koshan.
Wow.
It's nominated for a James Beard Award this year.
Everything was phenomenal, from the pickles to the potato chips to the sandwiches.
To the two sandwiches I ordered.
Yes.
Mecca Okafor, which we continue on our list. Absolutely.
But I just want to give a special shout out to Monica, who sang the national anthem Saturday night.
Don't worry, we'll get to our bad rap with the fray.
Phenomenal, yes.
Somebody will, definitely.
Also on the list of people we saw, Adam, was Dennis Dodd, also CBS Sports. We saw Greg Doyle, who was also there at CBS Sports as well. He, famed for writing a bunch of different articles there, and he was a great columnist. Pat Forty, who was there from, Yahoo now. Terrence Jones and Anthony Davis, who you'll talk about, I'm sure, here in a minute. Mike Lupica, Wally Zerbiak, I ran into him at Radio Row. John Anderson of ESPN, we saw him, talked to him a little bit. Rod Strickland, who's assistant coach now for Kentucky. We also saw Seth Davis, Sports Illustrated, ran him, talked to him a little bit. Saw Jim Gray in the men's room, surprisingly enough.
Sprucing himself up before a radio broadcast.
Right before the national broadcast.
Greatest face on radio.
Mecca Okafor and John Calipari's daughter, Megan Calipari, we also saw there.
And Aaron Calipari.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Now, Aaron Calipari had fire red hair like Run Lola Run. In a sea of blue, you saw Aaron Calipari stand out like a sore thumb. But she said, hey, I changed my hair as much as I changed my clothes, so do your thing, girl. All right, well, hey, one guy we didn't see, and I'm glad we didn't have to call from New Orleans.
Gary Trichter.
It's because of our boy Terrence, our cab driver, who's rocking Rick Ross on the iPad in the Astro van with the 45 on his lap, taking us downtown. Make sure we got there safe and sound from the Midtown Hotel right there in the heart of Midtown New Orleans. And if you've been to Midtown, go to the Catfish Shack, because that's where it's at. But hey, like I said, I'm glad we had Terrence, because if you guys need to send a call out to somebody and you get pulled over, you're going to call Gary Trichter. That's Houston's top DWI lawyer. And if you are going to drink, have a non-drinking designated driver like Carla Weezy, who's here tonight. She'll drive you home. She's not drinking out. Well, she's got a beer in her hand, so one beer tonight. You're the designated driver. Act bad in the building. Or you're going to have to take a cab or a limo. Like I've always told you guys, if you have to go pass out in the Junction RV, you'll be safe and sound. There's a pole in there. I mean, if you do what you want with it, you can stay right in there. But hey, all that's going to cost a lot less than calling Gary Trichter, because if you do decide to drink and then drive, you're going to have to follow the traffic laws religiously. Do not give the officer a reason to stop you. And if you do get stopped, do not, I repeat, do not answer any questions about drinking, because the officer is not going to believe you anyhow. Be polite, ask for your lawyer before doing any tests or answering any questions, and continue being polite and asking for your lawyer, even if the officer tells you can't have one. Ochimina. Remember that you'll likely be on video, and what you say and do is going to be recorded, so don't act a fool. Don't do the Bohemian Rhapsody in the back of the cop car, because it's going to get played on YouTube if you guys saw that. And I'm going to tell you real quick what a DWI can cost you. It's going to cost you 1 year suspension of your driver's license. Real quick. 6 months in jail, a $2,000 fine, $3,000 minimum surcharge, which is a tax on your license, court costs, fees. I mean, it's going to cost you in excess of $12,000, and it's going to double or triple your insurance costs.
Oh, man.
It's just too much to think about, man. So, you know what? Find your way home safe and sound, and if you have to, call the man, Gary Trichter, 713-524-1010. That's 713-524-1010. Put it in your phone right now and call him in Houston. Hey, my man Claudio, I told you earlier today, who you need to call? Gary Trichter. I know Claudio's tuned in right now. So visit TexasDWILaw.com for more information. And if you want more information about who we saw in New Orleans, we ran through the Met list. Now let's just run real quick through the Saw list. You know, people, hey, think we're name dropping, but these are people that we were very, very happy and excited to see.
Right off the bat, Adam, I was a little bit starstruck. We saw Jay-Z.
Right off the bat, we walked out the tunnel.
Right off the bat, we saw Hova. I mean, it was kind of nuts.
It was over after that.
It pretty much was.
Yep.
Some of the other guys we saw there that we really didn't get a chance to talk to, though, were Jeff Barzillo, who also writes for CBS. We saw Dario Franchitti, really get to talk to him. I saw Robert Kraft walking with Tommy Hilfiger, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, this is all Saturday pretty much.
Yeah. Andy Katz, I saw him. Didn't get really talk to him. He was pretty busy. You saw Mike Bray, who's the head coach at Notre Dame. We saw Tom Izzo. I also saw Dana O'Neill, who runs part of the blog there at ESPN for college basketball. Stephen A. Smith was kind of just walking through the house, like he was walking down to the actual scorers table, and he just kind of threw a what up to everybody. I also saw Kenny Smith and Greg Gumbel when they were about to do the CBS telecast.
Now, what were your thoughts about the crowd in general? Now, Saturday, the place pretty much cleared out after Kentucky.
Well, I mean, having Kentucky just there meant that the house was always going to be filled with a good crowd because they pretty much dominated it from the get-go. It was. I took a picture afterwards of just the crowd that was left to celebrate there at the Blue Nation, and it was just a sea of blue. I mean, they bring out the celebrities, like we mentioned. I mean, how many real celebrity fans do you have? They're going to bring other fans out, like a Hova, like an Ashley Judd. Not that many schools like that. Ohio State, they kind of bounce most of their fans, and Louisville too. But having two big blue bloods there, it's great because you had the true fans of college basketball out there. Last season, I went to the VCU games and the Butler games, and it really wasn't the same crowd because they didn't even fill up their student allotment because they don't have that many alumni. So, to have those four true blue blood schools, and we'll throw Ohio State in there as part of one of the blue bloods. They're pretty much good at a lot of sports, but it was a great crowd, I thought, overall.
All right, well, let's talk about Coach Cal a little bit because, I mentioned and we heard a couple of other analysts in the days following the championship game talk about it. But let's talk about, first and foremost, he gets number one, okay, after years and years and years of scrutiny, of taking banners down and taking wins away, taking tournament wins away. He finally gets that one, and to me, it was more post-game melancholy than it was relief or excitement.
I think it was. I think you're partly right. I think it was, though, more relief than he showed. Because if you saw him with the presentation for the actual players, and this is pretty much the message he tried to deliver in the whole post-game press conference was, it wasn't about him. It wasn't about him getting the monkey off his back. It was about the kids, and the kids, they actually accomplished something, and he helped them, figure out how to get there. But you saw him with the trophy. He was smiling whenever the guys were with him. He was kind of enjoying that moment with them. But I think he realizes that, yes, it's a big personal achievement for him, but there are so many other things that are left for him, too.
Well, a lot of people were saying that if he didn't pull this one in, that he might never pull one in. Because the talent on the team is ridiculous. And if you can't take a team like this all the way to the top, then, with the coaching skills that you supposedly have, then I don't know what else to say. And there was a lot of people that were saying that if Coach Cal doesn't pull this one in with these kids right now in this time, he'll never get one. And I think
But I also say, Adam, that he's gone through so much more other adversity than most coaches have. He's had so many things taken away from him of seasons that haven't stood up. He's had so many, other things, of allegations of cheating and misconduct and whatnot, that he had to prove himself time and time and time again. It almost seemed like every time he made it to a Final Four and didn't win it, it was kind of a mark against him. But I think now that we can look back and he actually has that trophy, those are going to be kind of things that support his resume rather than detract for them. So I think he's in a good place now after finally, getting that trophy. He can kind of breathe the sigh of relief and say, I'm no longer in that class of like the Charles Barkleys and the guys that the Dan Marinos who never won one.
That's right, coach or player. It's huge for your legacy. You've got to have that championship.
And now he said in the post-game press conferences he can finally get back to coaching because now people are going to stop asking him, is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? And he also set the level of expectations even higher next year. He said, I want an undefeated season. Why can't we win every game by 25? We had 5 kids go to the NBA. Why can't we have 6? Why can't we have 7 first-rounders? So he knows how to raise the bar.
Do you think this title holds up in the test of time, or do you think it gets stripped like everything else?
No, I think this one's legit because there's no real recruiting shadiness that was ever associated with any of these kids. I think top to bottom, he started to realize that he has to recruit kids that aren't as big of knuckleheads. You look at the team he had with DeMarcus Cousins and that sort of John Wall team. That team even had problems with some of the guys they were trying to get on the court. I mean, with Cantor, you know, he never actually played for that team. So, you know, I think this one's going to stick, mostly because he's recruiting the kind of kids that are smart and level-headed as well.
And they'll actually go take their own SATs.
But you say that, and we'll talk about Shabazz Muhammad, who is the #1 recruit right now, is choosing between UCLA and Kentucky, and there's a lot of controversy as to even if he is going to be eligible this next season. So we'll have to see.
Well, real quick before we get into this next break, you know, we really made our mark there in New Orleans. We went out there.
Swag.
And you know.
Can I just commend you on getting out there and showing people that Sports Rap Live has something to say? You know, you went out there and represented the way we represent here, but then you also went and represented in the way that everybody else in the room represented. Because I think once people you start off with the swag, like, where's this guy going with this? But then you get there and you show that the show is legitimate about what we represent.
There were national reporters that were tweeting out, what is this guy doing? Like calling at him out, being like, he doesn't belong, he should have his press credentials revoked. Then there was other guys, like the guys we were chilling with, who are the lead sports writers and maybe their whole profession right there in the field, of like Gary Parrish and Dan Wolk and some other guys in national media who were saying, oh no, swag guy, that's my boy. We were listening to the CBS podcast yesterday, and he's like, swag man, I think we're best friends. So
and following us on Twitter now. Shout out to Gary Parrish.
Shout out to Gary Parrish and those guys. I think they kind of take it in stride and realize you got to have fun with it. And if you're not going to have fun with it, why are you doing it?
Absolutely. There's a new wave coming in town.
Not only that, but you got to make yourself comfortable with the people you're talking to as well. And these kids,
without question.
You know, I want these, you know, players, these athletes. We've said it from day one. This is a show built for their enjoyment. This is not a show to knock athletes or knock coaches. We have our fun. We give our
Brian's not going to be out there swagging it with Anthony Davis.
Well, listen,
you know, but you will.
You want to hear swag with Anthony Davis? All right. So, hey, Bun B got a shout out from Terrence Jones, who was huge in the Final Four.
That's the
absolutely, and he appreciated your support and gave a little shout out to Anthony Davis after the game as he's pulling up to the press conference. We'll do this, and we're going to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to keep it going right here on Sports Rap Live. Anthony, that's swag. That's swag. Hey, we set it off on Twitter the other night.
Howdy,
all the other media was like, why is this dude saying swag?
With Cowboy Logic. When you're mounting your horse, remember, the right side is the wrong side. The left side is the right side, your back side is the broad side, and that's the side you sit on. If you're pulled over for DWI, never do surprise exercises that might innocently put you on your back.